you can be successful today, and tomorrow you lose your job, you lose your car, you lose the house, and then you're not successful, right? Same person, but the conditions have changed. So we're talking about, when you talk about that, money, job, those sort of things, you're talking about conditions around the person, right? You're not talking about the person. So then what does self-happiness mean? When we say, I want to be happy, some people might say, well, I'll be happy when I have €1,000,000. I'll be happy when I have a sports car. They're depending on conditions to be happy. So is that what you mean by happiness? So I think this self-happiness is very important, because usually in the form of Buddhism that I teach from, it's called Mahayana Buddhism, and we're really concerned about everybody else. So people often think then that means there's no me, there's no I should be happy, it's all about making others happy. But how can you make others happy if you're not happy yourself? So what's sensible, what His Holiness calls wise selfishness. Wise selfishness is concentrating on yourself first with the purpose to help others. That's different from, I only want to be happy. Right? Because you could have the motivation, same motivation. I want to be happy, but you never want to use it for anybody else. So that's what we call selfishness. Right? So that motivation, as opposed to, I want to be happy in order to make others happy, is completely different. So which way do you want it? Are you going to use your self-happiness to help others, or are you only going to use it to make yourself happy? So I think that's why it's really useful to start thinking, the purpose of my life is, I want to be happy. But then if I was happy, what would I do? Would I sit at home thinking, wow, this is incredible. I'm so happy. Right? When you think about it, you could be sitting at home completely alone, right? Thinking, I'm so happy, I'm so happy. I must tell somebody. So you call somebody and say, I'm so happy. And they say, well, I'm not. And you, okay, goodbye. You don't want to hear anything. Because I'm happy and I want to maintain my happiness. Then my happiness doesn't relate to others. My happiness doesn't help others. My happiness doesn't create anything good for others. It's only about me. So when we're talking about self-happiness, I like this idea of the self-happiness, and then there's the family, and then there's the work people, the friends, and it goes out and out and out. Where does it start? It has to start with me. If we're not happy, we're not going to be able to help anybody else. So I think this is really good. And the no bad energy, I think this is also really good, because if we have this motivation, I don't want to give out this bad energy to others, then what do you do with it? You have to be able to transform it, right? Not to suppress it, because if you suppress bad energy, I'm feeling really irritable and angry. But in society, we can't be irritable and angry, so I should push it down. Right? I should internalize it. So I push it down, and I sort of hold it down here, so my digestion is not so good, my stomach doesn't feel so good. I have to take these antacids or something for digestion. We don't want to be like that. We don't want to make ourselves sick through negative emotions. On the other hand, if we act the negative emotions out, driving along, winding down the windows, screaming and shouting at people on the motorway, you idiot, do you have a driving license? By the time you finish driving, you can think, that was really satisfying, but actually it creates more cause for more irritability and more anger. So temporary satisfaction, in that we've acted out, but then is the long-term peace, optimism. If you keep acting out these negative emotions, you create the habit of having more negative emotions. So there's got to be a third way. So what we're talking about with emotions is, one way is, should I suppress it? Push it down? Forget it ever happened? The other way is, should I act it out? Can I go into work and throw the muffins around, and scream and shout at everybody? And some people do, Are they respected? Do people help them? We can discuss that part. But what's the effect on others? This ripple effect as it goes out and out and out. Is it constructive to act out the negative emotions? So what about ambition? And all these things of movement, right? So we talk about being satisfied, being peaceful, content, those things. But what about ambition and developing and growing? So where does that come from, right? So is that also a dissatisfied mind? So there are areas that also we need to discuss. Because if you're thinking, I want to develop and grow, and it comes from a dissatisfied mind, is it going to help you? Is it going to be the right motivation? So I think this is it's very relevant, particularly in business, where you think, in business we need to develop and grow. Otherwise we implode, right? We get smaller and smaller, and then business disappears. And so what motivation, what driving force do we use in order to make it develop and grow? Should it be the dissatisfied mind? Should it be the satisfied mind? If it's satisfied, would we want to develop? We should have these conversations. I think they're interesting conversations. One thing I would like to say about worry, give it up. It's of no use at all. There's a famous Tibetan Lama who said, if you can't solve the problem, why worry? If you can't solve the problem, why worry? Right? Then the third thing that comes along is, but I'm still worried. I've had this habit from a long time. So I think one thing to really work on there, what would concern me, is the worry. Because when we worry, it tends to be circular. We tend to go round and round and round, and it tends not to produce a result. So what you're looking for is, with concern about others, with love or compassion, good feeling about others, you want to help them in their situation. So I'd take out the worry, but have concern. You should have concern. You should have love and compassion. And love is, I want you to be happy, and compassion, I don't want you to suffer. So of course, with family, with people you work with, you have this, but you don't want to bring worry into it, because worry will just take you around and round in circles. It uses up a lot of energy, and then it's like this sort of, I go down and down and down, and wow, what a day. I worried so much, but didn't feel like I did anything, didn't feel like I came to a conclusion. And so how do you come to the conclusion? If there's something you can do, so that gives you a clue. What am I worried about? And it's really good to write down what you're worried about. Because as soon as you write it down, you start to become clear. When it's just in your mind, I'm really worried about my mother. And you can make up lots of stories about your mother, but it's just adding to the worry. So if I'm really worried about something, what is it that I'm worried about? Write it down. And then often just by writing it down, you understand there is nothing to worry about. But by writing it down, you see there is a problem. Then the next step is, what can I do about that problem? Do I have answers? So then you make a list of the answers. So here's the problem, here are the answers. And if there are no answers, then what he said was, then also why worry? So if there are answers, why aren't you putting them into effect? And this is really important too, because often we have problems, we have answers, but because we're in the syndrome of worrying, We don't actually put something into effect. We don't do something. We think, well, tomorrow, or tomorrow, or tomorrow, you know? It's like we get our satisfaction from the worrying. So what you need to do is renounce, give up the worrying, but keep the concern, keep the good feeling. But is there something I can do? Is there something I can't do? In either case, why am I worried?